Okay, hello everyone. I am Jackie. I'm one of the health promotion specialists here in Borden, and I would like to welcome you to our Dietitian Q&A Masterclass session. So this is, I think, the third or fourth session that we've shared, and I'm very happy today to be joined by Micah, who is a registered dietitian currently working in CFB Gagetown. So thanks for joining us today. We've definitely got some questions to ask. For those in our local community, we did ask for you to submit any questions that you might have for a dietitian, and we definitely had quite a few pop in, so we'll be addressing those today. Before we get into that, do you mind just kind of sharing a little bit about yourself, your role, and maybe kind of what led you to the dietitian world?
Yeah, so I'm Micah. I'm a dietitian here, dietitian and health promotion specialist here in Gagetown in Fredericton, New Brunswick. I did my schooling at the University of Moncton here again in New Brunswick, and this is one of my first dietitian roles since I graduated. I have graduated a few years ago, but did other things in the meantime. And so right now I'm covering a one-year contract, or I guess a 6-month now contract for maternity leave, and then hopefully that'll turn into a full-time contract after to stay on with health promotion. So my roles in health promotion are, as any other health promotion specialist, delivering courses, giving briefings, activities, things like that. But I also do dietitian work as well, kind of interviews here and where it is Nutrition Month. Doing posts and stuff for Gagetown, and I also did a tour of the kitchen, I guess, here in Gagetown to kind of look at the different aspects of the kitchen and what can be improved. So I'm doing a little bit of dietitian work too, which is fun.
Amazing. That's great. It's great that you can kind of still utilize that designation in this role that may not be as specific, but yeah, well, hopefully you'll be able to stay on with us for longer. It's an awesome role to be in. Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's jump into some of the questions that we had come in from our members. If you're ready and set to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So just kind of generally speaking, this came in from one of our members. Could you speak to the difference between registered dietitians and nutritionists? So are they using different resources? Should we contact one or the other when we're looking for specific information? Are they similar in their approaches? Those kinds of things?
Yeah, so the term dietitian, and I'm going to speak to New Brunswick and Ontario since these are the two provinces, I guess, that we're dealing with, but it does differ per province. So the term dietitian or registered dietitian is a reserved term in New Brunswick and Ontario for health professionals that study at an accredited university for 4 years, and then after that you complete about a 1-year internship at accredited hospitals and other locations. After that you have to apply and take the Canadian Dietetic Registration Exam, and then once you pass that you're free to practice anywhere in Canada except for Quebec because they have their own rules. The term nutritionist, again, in New Brunswick and Ontario is not reserved for anybody. So it varies per province. Some provinces do have the term nutritionist reserved for the same people who would be dietitians. They can use it as a synonym, but again, in New Brunswick and Ontario, you can't. So it's basically for anybody who wants to open a practice. The term nutritionist is for anybody who wants to open a practice and give nutrition advice. Again, anybody can call themselves a nutritionist basically and open a practice. So as for their approach, it depends on the person, the nutritionist, I guess, giving the advice. Dietitians always follow the most scientific evidence and the kind of the best practice evidence. Again, where a nutritionist can kind of give whatever advice they'd want. As well, I guess another thing to look at is if you're going to go to see a dietitian or a nutritionist and you're looking to get your insurance to cover it, your insurance may not cover a nutritionist, but they may cover a dietitian. So that is also kind of important to look at. Yeah, so it's pretty much the difference between the two of them. And again, this is just for New Brunswick and Ontario, and it can differ.
Sure. That's a good point about coverages too. I feel like a lot of people might not be aware of that piece there. So definitely a little bit more scrutiny in terms of education and qualifications and designations to be kind of that hold that title versus nutritionist. So yeah, definitely kind of eye-opening for some folks, I'm sure. We had a ton of questions come in related to kind of different trends or diets. So I've got a few kind of the main ones here that that I kind of pulled out that were a little bit repetitive. So clearly people want to know a little bit about them.
Yeah.
So could you speak to kind of the pros and cons of intermittent fasting, kind of what research we kind of have either in support or against it right now?
Sure. So intermittent fasting, as of, again, right now, the date in March that this is being recorded, there isn't much long-term evidence either supporting or against it. Unfortunately, it's the type of diet that people don't tend to stay on long enough for research to be long-term. The short term of it is that it can help lose weight, but again, it's not a long-term goal, or it's not a long-term diet, I guess. And so once you stop the intermittent fasting, the chances of you gaining the weight back and whatnot kind of are high. But it's not, because of the short term of it, I guess, it's not, and that it's not sustainable. It's not recommended, I guess, or it's not, yeah, it's not recommended just because it's not sustainable. And with any sort of change wanting to be made in a diet or in any lifestyle, you want it to be sustainable. And so just because it's not sustainable is kind of the reasoning that it's not recommended. But again, the short term does point to it helping, but long term, not so much.
Right. It's definitely one that I feel like there's one side being posted one day and kind of the other side of the coin being posted the next, or shared in terms of kind of what's out there. So again, making sure you're looking at that credible info, right? And really doing your research before you maybe try or commit yourself to some of these types of things.
Yeah, and I do also have some files that I can share as well.
Great.
Kind of some that come from the Department of National Defense on some of these diets.
Appreciate that. I'm sure people will appreciate those as well. In terms of things such as like protein powders or protein shakes, I mean, there's a ton of different brands out there. From your perspective, are they either like beneficial or healthy in maybe maintaining kind of that longer term change, or kind of comparing that to just the kind of doing that balanced plate approach and kind of having that healthy diet? So maybe like speaking to supplements versus kind of just that overall food-based nutrition.
Yeah, so I believe the question was asking about a specific brand. So basically, what's important if we're going to talk about a specific brand without naming any specific brands is that it's always worth checking to make sure that they're third-party tested, because any brand can endorse their own product and will endorse their own product because it's in their best interest to make it look as appealing as possible. But it's always important to look for third-party testing for that. And I do have some websites that I can share with you that you can check for third-party testing. And as of right now, again, there isn't in Canada any kind of certification for any nutritional supplements. And so I do have another website that kind of, it's not a certification, but it's a little bit more research being done into different supplements. And you can look up the different supplements that you want to take on that. And so, yeah, so again, staying away from anything that's kind of too hyped up is probably the way to go. As for whether you should be taking nutritional supplements like protein powder or not, it depends on the person and how much they're working out. At the end of the day, most of us get the amount of protein we need from our diets. That being said, if you're going to be doing a lot of resistance training and stuff, you may need a little bit more protein, which is fine to do that from a protein shake or other protein supplement. The other thing to remember is if you're not going to work out, taking a protein shake isn't going to help you gain muscle without the resistance training or without any kind of strength training added with it. So I guess it depends on anybody's specific diet and specific workout regime.
Sure. It's not that quick fix that's going to get you bulked up in a week's time without putting the work in, right?
No, and your body can only use a certain amount per day as well. So, taking like 4 or 5 protein shakes in a day, and then doing some strength training is not going to do more than if you just took 1 or 2, you know what I mean? One protein shake or whatever.
Right. And I think just kind of what you mentioned there too is that a lot of us do, like, we get what we need typically from that balanced plate or that balanced diet, right? Of the kind of the nutrients that we require. So it is kind of that really individualized approach that I think you kind of personally need to dive into a little bit more before you choose to kind of go down that route of choosing if you need supplements or if you can kind of get what you need from that healthy diet. Next question here, is there benefit to doing a cleanse day or kind of those maybe restrictive type diets?
Yeah, so we actually get this question quite a bit, and the short answer is that you have all the organs you need in your body to eliminate all the waste from any food or anything that you may eat. Your kidneys and liver, unless they're not working properly, are able to do the job to eliminate all the waste. It's important to eat a healthy diet to support your normal body function, but really cleanses aren't necessary as long as you're eating a healthy diet. And even if you're not eating a healthy diet, making small changes to eat healthier will pay off in the long run. So really cleanses, most cleanses can be summed up to either a low calorie intake or a low intake of vital macro and micronutrients. It can be dangerous to cut your calorie intake drastically, even if only for a day, and can lead to problems either in the short term or long term. So cleanses aren't beneficial, no, unfortunately. Maybe
more of that cash grab than anything.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's what we're seeing. Yeah, and again, our bodies are designed to work, I guess. So
sure. Could you maybe speak a little bit more to maybe some of those short or long-term effects of being in maybe a super restrictive type diet? So maybe cutting a certain macronutrient or being very restrictive in terms of kind of not necessarily having that full balance of the nutrients that you do need.
Yeah, so our body runs on fuel, so on the carbs and the protein and the fat that we eat. And if we start to eliminate one, then our body tries to find other sources for it. So your liver can work a bit harder to create more to break down the sugar anyway faster to use it up. Your body will start to take away the protein out of your muscles, out of your your body to use it as a fuel source. And again, we're talking a little more long term there, but even short term, it can be dangerous to restrict too much of any nutrients. And I know that right now the thought process, I guess, is that sugar is the enemy, and we're all thinking sugar is bad and things like that. But it still is important to get a certain amount, just because that is the primary fuel source for your body. It is what your body burns first when you're doing any kind of physical activity or just kind of living, I guess. So it is important to get that balance and to get enough so that our body doesn't start looking for sources, other sources in our body, that it can start to break something else down just to just to get the fuel to keep going.
Right. Another question here. So someone was wondering about the benefits or risks of collagen supplements and maybe where to find them naturally. So other than seafood, which I think is a pretty common source that a lot of people are aware of.
Yeah. So for collagen, so I'm just looking here. Yeah, so I had to look it up a little bit just because it's one of those newer kind of trends, I guess. And so so I had to look it up. Let me just pull up my research here.
Yeah, I find it's one of those things that is either all over like Instagram, or influencers are saying that they're taking this and they're having these amazing results, and trying not to fall victim to some of those hype, right? Without doing your research.
Exactly, yeah. So here, I'm just trying to pull up the most recent research. Just so that I have, because I had to, and again, it is a pretty new subject to me at least, and I know that probably to a lot of people as well. I just have it.
I think that just kind of speaks to the fact too that there is so much new info out there all the time when it comes to nutrition, and kind of sifting through and finding the best, the most evidence informed, and making those decisions can be super challenging for folks. So it's great when we have you for even like 20-30 minutes to be able to ask these questions too.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, okay. So I found the information. So basically, there isn't right now any evidence that for the so some people are taking collagen for skin, hair, and nail health. For right now, there isn't much in terms of research or evidence that it does help with those. As for collagen for injury recovery. So collagen, for anybody that doesn't know, is a structural protein that is already found in our cartilage, our tendons, our ligaments, our skin, and our bones. It does contain some important amino acids that we do get from our diet already, but you could take a supplement for it. Again, the research is still pretty limited, but the research that I found was to look for collagen powders that have a single ingredient versus something that has a ton of ingredients in it, a ton of things that you wouldn't need. And some of them have added sugar that, it's just another source of sugar that you don't need. And again, same thing as with the protein supplements. You always want to check something that's been third-party tested, just because, again, companies always make their own products seem really enticing. Sure. That's where they make their money.
Exactly.
So it says, as for like specifics, it shows that a 10 or 15 to 20 grams of collagen has been shown to be effective if you take it 30 to 60 minutes before your workout. But yeah, there's a lot of I'm just reading it all here. Yeah, there's a lot of you have to take it with a certain amount of vitamin C to make it effective. So it's not just one of those simple, you can kind of mix your powder in with, I don't know what you'd mix it with, water, I guess, or something. It's not as simple as that, I guess, but yeah, so it could be, but again, we'll have to wait probably a couple of years till more research comes out about it.
Sure. So again, being pretty like critical of those ads that we might see online or social media, of these amazing benefits, right? Because again, it is a company, and at the end of the day, they are just looking to make money, and there might be benefit in certain populations or under certain how you kind of take it, but again, we probably won't know that for a little while.
Yeah.
Another question here. So do you have nutrition advice or any resources that you could provide for someone who is pre-diabetic?
Yeah, so yeah, this one's a little bit hard as well, just where it would, I guess it'd be important to have your blood work done regularly, which is nothing to do with nutrition, but it's just to have your blood work done regularly to kind of monitor your blood sugars. Again, that's not a nutrition thing. That's just a good thing to do, I guess. And then as for nutrition advice, so a lot of times diabetes, type 2 diabetes would be, it's genetic. So if your parents had it, if your siblings have it, if your grandparents had it, your uncle, your aunts, anybody in your family, you are more at risk of getting it. The nutrition advice is still kind of broad, just because when it comes time to being diabetic, then we can kind of treat it with diet and with medication. But pre-diabetic is just kind of that waiting game for when you'll be diagnosed, I guess. It is possible to reverse or to bring your blood sugars down with eating, regular meals, making sure that you have a protein source at your meals to kind of keep you fuller longer, and protein mixed with a carb will kind of help stabilize your blood sugar a little bit. So don't just eat carbs. If you're going to eat carbs, have some protein with it, again, to kind of stabilize those blood sugars. And again, I'm going to go on my internship here. When I worked in the Diabetes Education Center, we did run a class for people that were pre-diabetic, and we did kind of recommend that they lose 5 or 10 pounds. Having your BMI within a healthy range did help control blood sugar as well. Yeah, so it's kind of just, yeah, to have a healthy BMI or to lose, and 5 to 10 pounds was kind of a blanket goal for everybody that we set. It didn't matter what their BMI was at. We just kind of blanket goaled that to 5 or 10 pounds. Just even losing that 5 to 10 pounds would help with the blood sugar drastically already.
Right.
And yeah, just kind of eating again those regular meals, having a snack before bed to make sure that you're having those carbs and you're having the protein. And I know that having carbs if you're be diabetic is not a good thing, but it has to do with your liver, and your liver will produce more sugar if you don't eat it. If that makes sense, right. Overnight, because our blood sugars all tend to drop overnight. Diabetic or not, your blood sugar is going to drop overnight because you're not eating. So your liver will produce sugar to bring it back up, but your liver will produce more sugar than what you'd be eating if you were to eat a small snack with and kind of the goal we were saying is 15 grams of carbs.
Okay.
So if you were to eat a small snack with 15 grams of carbs, again, your liver won't have to produce sugar, meaning you can kind of control it a little bit better that way. Sure. But yeah, and that's also to monitor your blood work, I guess. And the thing that's important to remember is that if you are diagnosed diabetic and you are put on medication, it's not a sign of defeat. It's not a sign that you lost, that you didn't do a good job, that if you did follow and you did eat a healthy diet, and then now all of a sudden you went from pre-diabetic to diabetic. It sucks, I guess, but it's not, yeah, it's, the medication is there to help you, I guess, at the end of the day. It's not kind of a punishment. And anybody that goes on medication, it doesn't mean they're going to be on insulin later. You know what I mean? You can still control your blood sugar well enough on medication. And again, it is genetic. So it's one of those things that you, unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's the luck of the draw.
Right. No, I think there was some great tips that you mentioned in there for sure. And I think too, like a lot of people kind of hear that, I've got to drop like that 5 to 10 pounds, or kind of like you said, that blanket kind of goal that you've set there. I think it's important too to realize like that doesn't need to happen overnight, right? Like it needs to be that sustainable, healthy lifestyle change, like approach. So eating your balanced meals, low saturated fats, whole grains, regular activity levels and things like that. It's not like cutting out everything and dropping those 10 pounds in 2 days, right? So being smart about it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, we're kind of coming to the end here. And these are some of the questions that we typically like to ask most folks that we have on our series here. Maybe one's more specific to you and your role. But what are some recommended resources, apps, even favorite podcasts or anything like that you currently use, recommend, really like, that we can share with our audience?
Yeah, so I actually I work a lot. There's the website. Well, I guess it's the website that the Nutrition Month website. It's kind of built onto a different website called unlockfood.ca. And I'm sure you guys have shared it with other resources, but I find that they have a lot of good recipes on there. And they have a lot of just really good information about anything. I know that I did a lot of posts for Nutrition Month for Gagetown here, and I use that website a ton. You can find a lot of really good information on there.
Awesome. Yeah, we've shared that before too, and like you said, they have a ton of kind of interactive aspects as well, right? So you can do your meal planning, you can learn about these kind of specific questions that folks might have. So yeah, can't recommend that one enough, especially now for it being Nutrition Month for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe my last question for you here, it's a bit more of maybe a fun one, but a lot of us are still kind of in the hybrid, maybe working from home, in the office here and there. I know us right now, some of us are in the office occasionally, but we're still primarily working from home. What are some of your favorite or go-to work from home snacks that are not going to maybe cause the unintended weight gain or things like that while we're still kind of dealing with this whole situation that we're all in?
Yeah, so I guess, yeah, that's a good question. So I guess it wouldn't be a type of snack, but it would just be that whenever I go grocery shopping and I buy like my fruits and vegetables, I cut them up right away. So if they're in the fridge, they're ready. If I'm if I say, oh shoot, I have a meeting in 5 minutes, an online meeting or whatever, I can just grab a container of peppers that I already cut up or carrots that are already cut up, and I don't have to sit there and cut them up.
Sure.
And the same thing, I'll buy a big tub of hummus and then divide it up into smaller containers so that I can just grab one peppers and some hummus and take it kind of to go. And so that I find that that's the easiest snack to have, is when everything's already cut up and then you don't have to cut it up on the spot, I guess.
Right. So making that healthy choice, the easy choice with only a few more minutes kind of at the onset of when you're bringing stuff home, so that you're setting yourself up for success rather than reaching for those maybe snacks that aren't going to be as nutritious for you.
Yeah, and we also leave them so that the kids can, like, they're on the bottom shelf, so the kids, when they're hungry, they know they have to ask for everything else, but if they want to open the fridge and grab some vegetables, they never have to ask for those. Like, they're always on the bottom shelf and they're cut up and ready for the kids to just grab. Perfect.
That's an awesome tip too for families, right? To make sure you have those healthy snacks accessible for the little ones. That's awesome. Yeah. Awesome. That's all the questions that I have for you today. Is there anything else you kind of want to add as we end things off here?
Not that I can think of, but if ever there's anything else, any other questions that kind of pop up, then just let me know.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Well, thanks again for taking the time to chat with us today. I'm sure we will probably be in touch again soon if we have any more questions that come either from this or kind of throughout the next little while. So again, thanks for joining us for our masterclass, and we'll talk to you soon.
Perfect. Thank you.